But the bottom line is celiac disease is not for, celiac disease equals having a gluten-free diet, okay? But the gluten-free diet is not for everyone. As I mentioned earlier, maybe J-Lo can afford it, maybe Miley Cyrus can afford it, and Kelly Ripa. But the average Rhode Islander or Southern New Englander is probably on a budget, and if you don't need to buy it, I would say don't. You can buy, if you're worried about products that are filled with stuff, you can always buy 100% whole wheat. You can buy potatoes. You also can buy the quinoa and the rice, and you don't have to worry about all this other stuff that someone with celiac disease would have to worry about. So what are some of the words that might seem a little misleading and you might not be sure if they have gluten or wheat or barley in it? So I'm just going to list stuff. Bulgur, couscous, durum wheat, farina, matzah, semolina, spelt, tricali, and then any like cake flour, pastry flour, any of those may not say the word wheat next to them, but they're an indication that there is wheat in the product. So again, going to repeat it again. Wheat, barley, rye, and oats are the things that people with celiac disease can't have, and people with a celiac sensitivity need to cut down on. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's through trial and error that people with sensitivity, they can try a certain amount and they're fine, and then they have, maybe one time they only had a cup of this quinoa that has a little bit of wheat in it, and they felt fine. But another time they had 2 cups and they got sick. And you have to look back and try and think, oh, what was it I had and what was it that made me not feel good? And start realizing what your threshold is for this gluten products. Potential sources of gluten can be from soups, they can be from candy, they can be from a communion wafer. I had a client who actually was doing so well. He was doing everything he needed to do to be on this gluten-free diet. And we could not figure out why all of a sudden one day he was sick. And so I said, what did you do yesterday? Let's really think about, do you think it could have been cross-contamination? And we'll talk about that in a moment too. And he said, I don't think so. I mean, I have my own toaster. I do everything, you taught me to do. And he told me he went to church. And then I was like, oh my goodness, that's what it is. It's the communion wafer. So he can't have that anymore. And, I'm sure that other people have done this too. So being really mindful of sauces and gravies and tea. Did you know tea has barley in it sometimes? So a lot of people say they're on a gluten-free diet, but I don't really think they know what it is. I think they go ahead and they buy the gluten-free bread and stuff, but they don't realize that it's in the products I showed today, or it could be in your tea. It could be in just about anything, candy, vitamins and minerals. And if you are someone who's following a gluten-free diet and you don't know how or where to find a gluten-free vitamin or mineral, email me at tv9dietbusters@gmail.com, and I'll give you a list of all vitamins that are gluten-free. Even over-the-counter medications and prescription meds, sometimes you have to call the companies. If you truly have celiac disease and you're that sensitive, you have to call the companies to find out if their product is gluten-free or not, because just that little tiny amount that could be in a drug or on the counter that you can't see, that you put and it got near your food that was gluten-free, that can affect these people that are super, super sensitive. So cross-contamination is a whole nother, I could probably spend a half hour just talking about that, but I'll try and make it as clear and as simple as I can. People that have celiac disease need special utensils. They need their own toaster. So say my husband had celiac disease. I need to have a toaster just for him so that my bread doesn't go in the toaster and then contaminate his bread. So let's say I have a product like peanut butter, and my husband and I both use the same jar, and my husband has celiac disease. If I spread the peanut butter on my bread that's not gluten-free, and then put it back into the peanut butter, and then spread it another piece of bread, and then my husband uses the peanut butter, now this product that was gluten-free now has gluten in it. So think of it like, it's called 20 parts per million, which is about the size of a crumb. Once that gets in there, for people that have celiac disease, it's no longer good for them and they have to not use it. So they have to have special cutting boards. And then what do? Excuse me, if you have to go to a restaurant, or not if you have to, if you want to go to a restaurant. Unfortunately, as we all know, restaurants behind the scenes, or most people know, can be pretty crazy. And that 16-year-old or that 18-year-old that is, taking a cutting board and using it that says gluten-free on it for something that's not, it happens. And so this cross-contamination, they might use the cutting board, they might use a knife that's marked gluten-free, they might do the peanut butter thing that I just talked about, they might use a pan, who knows, the list goes on and on. Some restaurants are truly gluten-free, and some restaurants just have a gluten-free menu. And I know from my friend who has celiac disease is that she has to be super duper careful. She's gotten sick many, many times from going to restaurants that have a gluten-free menu, yet she knows for sure that she gets sick the next day and it was from eating something that claimed to be gluten-free that was not. So it takes a little trial and error, but once you find that restaurant that does it correctly, and once you find that, oh wow, I can go out, I can go out with my friends or my husband or my best friend, and I can have a normal life, it makes it all worth it. Your friends will understand if you can't go to certain restaurants. You'll be back to going out, back to having a normal life, feeling great, getting more energy, you're getting the vitamins in other ways that you were lacking before, and it's all worth it in the end. It's a complicated diet, but it's not the end of the world. So every time I do the show Diet Busters, I am going to have a section at the end that's going to be just for people who want to write in and ask me a question. And you could do that at tv9dietbusters@gmail.com. And this week I have had a couple of questions from a few clients that wrote in, or not clients, I'm sorry, from people that have wrote in from watching the show. And one wrote, "Dear Meg, I am on a gluten-free diet. I've been diagnosed with celiac disease, and I'm trying to navigate through the store, and it's very time-consuming. Can I have rice, and what else? What's an easy, quick way to go through the food store if you have celiac disease?" So I would say education, education, education. You need to meet with someone, meet with a registered dietitian, someone who can really walk you and guide you through the process. It's not easy. I showed you a few products today that on the outside appear to be gluten-free, but when you read through the product list, you can see that they're not. And the average person who just looks for, hears that quinoa is okay, is not going to realize that they're actually going to make themselves sick. So you will eventually get through the food store and you'll navigate your way through. It'll get easier and easier every time you go. But in the beginning, you need some help and you need to take your time. And if you're old like me, you need to bring some glasses, go through, take your time and remember. And one tip would be you can have all the fruits and vegetables. It cracks me up because I see things now labeled gluten-free, and it's like, that never had gluten in the first place, so why are they confusing people? But fruits and vegetables, the fish, the poultry, you're gonna have to find out about cold cuts and stuff like that. Cold cuts aren't the best thing. If you took those out of your diet because you need to, that's probably a good thing anyway. And so don't be afraid. Someone can help you. You'll get the guidance that you need. You're going to feel better. You're going to look better, and you're going to have more energy. So you'll get there, but there is no quick, easy fix, I'm sorry to say. So the next person asks, Dear Meg, I am 20 years old. I have celiac disease, and I was wondering if I can drink beer or alcohol, or what can I drink? And I should have said 21 years old. If you're 21 years old, you can have some beers, but you can't have beers that are made with malt or barley or hops. A lot of beers are made without that stuff. You just have to look. You can have any distilled alcohol. You could have gin and any distilled like tonic or anything like that. And wine equals grapes, right? So wine doesn't have wheat, barley, rye, or oats like beer could. So wine is fine too. So drink responsibly and drink moderately and find the beers or whatever it is you and your friends are doing. Go out, have a good time, but it doesn't mean that if you have celiac disease that you know it's going to totally affect your life. It's just going to change your life. And I always say it could be so much worse. So don't feel down. Go see a registered dietitian. Get the help you need, and you'll soon feel safe and happy with the choices that you make. And in the end, the bottom line is that celiac patients need the gluten-free diet. J-Lo and Kelly Ripa and all those other people, if they want to go on that diet, they can, but they don't need to. If you don't need to, I don't recommend it. There's junk in some of the gluten products too. So take your time, make a decision, but the decision that you make really, make it count and make it. If you want to have more healthy foods in your diet and you're spending twice as much and you don't need to on breads and pasta and things like that, that seems a little ridiculous to me. So don't go gluten unless you have to, either with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. My name is Meg Marie O'Rourke. Thank you for watching Diet Busters, and I hope this segment on celiac disease was helpful for you today. Thank you so much for watching.